Hi, welcome to Watcher DM. I'm Gabriel. And today I wanted to make a quick video. I was watching Jorben from Elder Goblin Games talk about his prep. And actually, he was talking about prep in general. And he had a bunch of kind of listed methodologies of prep. And I think prep is something like all DMs develop a relationship with. And I've been DMing for like 35 years or so. And so, I just kind of I've come to a place in my own prep that I feel is pretty effective for me. And I wanted to share what that looks like in concrete terms across a couple of different systems. So I'm going to try and go through this pretty fast because I don't want to spend a ton of time boring you guys or blah blahing your ears off. But I did a poll recently, and it turns out like half my viewers or subscribers, any of the ones who answered the poll, are DMs, and the other half are like creators. So I think my audience is people like me, which is awesome. Like, thanks for hanging out and watching my stuff with me. That's so cool. So I think I'm not probably going to be saying anything too new here, but I kind of just wanted to show off some of the process and what I've done for a couple different systems. So, Forgotten Realms. This is the new book, Adventures in Forgotten Realms, for the 5th edition, 2024, whatever you want to call it. And I recently had the opportunity to run an introduction game for new players at YVR DM's event. Now, YVR DM's is a local Vancouver gaming collective, and they put on these events to help bring new people into the hobby. And so I was a DM for one of those events. Not the first time I've done it, but it was my first time running it was my second time running a 2024 session. But I ran specifically one of the sessions out of the Forgotten Realms Adventures in Faerun, because in this book, I don't know if you've seen this yet. I think Ben Milton did a video recently about this book specifically, and I kind of called it out as well in a short. But the adventures in this book are super tiny. They're like really, really small. There's like a page, right? And so the Robber Baron is the adventure that I chose. It was level 1, perfect size for the party. Now, some of the things that are little kind of gotchas with this is that while this expresses what the adventure actually is, you need certain things from other books to kind of make this work. So one of the things it tells you right out the gate is that you need the dungeon hideout map in the Dungeon Master's Guide Appendix B. Okay, so I know I'm going to need that, right? I read through this, and it seems mostly fine on the surface. There were some concerning points, though, and those are things that I took note of kind of right away. One is that you're going to rescue this, kidnapped merchant guy. It's the brother of a merchant. There's a ransom note. He's held by some bandits, okay? And he offers 50 gold pieces to bring his brother home and teach the bandits a lesson, notably teach the bandits a lesson. But then, when you're actually in this adventure, and by the way, spoilers for this, but I'm just assuming you guys are going to run this stuff, so I'm not ever going to tell you that there's spoilers, because I'm assuming you are here to learn how to run it or talk about how to run it, not how to play in it or cheat. If you're a cheater, go be a stinky cheater somewhere else. This is not the video for you. Okay, so Martin Rue and his sister, Wendy Rue, were nobles, and they were disgraced in some way. It's pretty unclear. It's actually really ambiguous here how they were disgraced. But they do talk about the Aomanes. They were ruined by the Aomanes, which is a rival family that the Rues accuse of devil worship. Well, it turns out that's true. In another adventure, in Baldur's Gate, those people are actually like an adventure hook for a whole thing. So I was like, well, why would they kidnap some rando to get some money for nebulous reasons when what they really want is revenge on the Aomanes? So I made the decision. I was like, no, they've kidnapped Trent Aomane. I don't know how yet, but they've kidnapped him. And so they have him locked up in one of these places, which really kind of changed the tone of the whole adventure. Also, I found it a little hard to believe that Martin Rue and Wendy Rue had any real capacity to put together a group of, I think it's like 21 bandits. There's a lot of bandits in this adventure. And in fact, I'm just going to crack open my book here and show you. So this is my notes. These are my notes on this here. I'm going to see if I can. Nope, that's not zooming. Oh no. Okay, let's redo this here. Can I tighten? Okay, so we're going to zoom in a little bit. We're going to refocus here, I think. Okay, so I did a count here. And yeah, I think there's, let's see, these are all the bandits in here. So we got 3, 6, 9, 12 bandits. There's 2 of these, I called them Caldwells, or I marked them with C for Caldwell, but they're toughs. And then there's 2 scouts. And then there's 2 mastiffs. And then there's Rue and, Martin and Wendy. Yeah. So I marked him R for Rue. He's a spy stat block. But like the pitch on this adventure, and as you can see here, like I redrew the parts of the map from the Dungeon Master's Guide that were relevant to the adventure. So that was kind of like how I, did like how I wanted to get that done so that I could run it off of this spread. So here's all the loot tracked out. Here's the stat blocks I effectively need for everything in the dungeon. And then here's the really kind of bullet note short stack info kind of derived from this, but crystallized down into the stuff I really, care about tactically. So a couple of things that I did to kind of zhuzh this thing up. So this is me taking a study, right? I studied this one page, thank God, one page of text, very easy to read, very easy to consume. I studied it. I did a little thinking about it. I figured out that the watchtower, the collapsed watchtower that they were staying in, I wanted it to be relevant to the area. So I looked up Baldur's Gate area history, and it turns out that the region used to be run by the Illafarn elves. And so I just said, okay, well, these watchtowers are present every, 24 miles or whatever, 2 hexes on the road, and they're just ancient Illafarn watchtowers from back when the elves maintained the roads here, and they've fallen into collapse mostly, but there's still some, they can still be used as hideouts, and that's where these guys are hanging out. So I had a little bit of world building zhuzh, and I had determined that I think the Guild, which is a group in Baldur's Gate, wanting to get kind of some hooks into the Eomanes, had kind of proposed this kidnapping to Martin, Rue, and Wendy, and they kind of reluctantly took on this illicit backing to kind of, and they basically got snowballed into doing something highly illegal in capturing Trent Eomane. So that was, I don't know, I felt like this really gave me a great way to give the party like a reason not to just want to murk Martin and Wendy, because they're kind of hapless in this. They're just kind of like noble idiots. And yeah, it worked out really, really well. Like the party came and discovered like the secret way in. They cast sleep to knock out some of the first bandits that they ran into. They ended up having like this big kind of knockout fight here. One of the PCs died. It was very dramatic. And then they went to go rescue Trent. Well, Trent is a dick. He is not a good guy. He's like, no, I want to go murder. I want to get back at Martin and Wendy. I want to go murder these people. And so, like, pretty quickly, he's like kind of out of control. And the party is like, how are we going to deal with this guy? So they end up fighting him and knocking him out. But not before, like, it was a rough fight. Ultimately, they knock him out, they remanacle him, they get him all bound up, and they're like, okay, they're going to go deliver him to the Eomanes, and basically, kind of collect on that reward, but also look for an opportunity to, because I think like one of the quest hooks here is, if the party agrees to help Martin and Wendy get justice on the Eomanes and regain their rightful position in Baldur's Gate, Martin releases Aiden. As long as Aiden is free, Rolf makes good on his promised payment. So at this point, it's not about this. They're going to go get paid from the Eomanes, and they're going to take Trent back to the Eomanes, and they're going to try and get justice on them in it at the same time. So this felt like a much better hook. Now, mind you, it was a one shot. We didn't end up doing any of that, but we did play through the adventure. It was a lot of fun. It gave me a good way to kind of separate the desires of the Rue family and the bandits who were also there as kind of being different, right? The Caldwell and the Tufts and all the guild nerds were like here for the money. They were charging a toll for anybody who rolled by the watchtower. But Martin and Wendy were kind of trying to figure out like how to get back at the Aomine family. So this is an example of what my prep looks like. I take something like this and I cook it down into something like this. Now this is for a pre planned adventure. Okay, so Forgotten Realms, Adventures in Faerun, Bandits, Robber Baron. Okay, so that's what that looks like. Now let's talk about some of the other stuff I've done here. So let's talk about Shadowdark, because he mentions Shadowdark in that video, and he talks about the gloaming. I ran a brief campaign of the Red Sands for my friends here, a bunch of creators actually here in Vancouver. And so when looking at the Red Sands adventure, or the Red Sands campaign, there are no first level adventures in this campaign. This is all pretty high level stuff, actually. But I really wanted to give them an opportunity to play in a kind of low level, low stakes context. So the built-in Fortress of the Burning Brothers is a 4 to 6 level adventure. And so I looked at the hex map, and one of the things, he calls it out, like one of the great things about this module is like 706 here is listed as a location, a keyed location, and they're punchy and they're quick and they don't say much, but there's a lot of evocative stuff here. So wind blows over the craggy face of the howling caves, filling the silent desert with thrumming hypnotic tones. Legend holds that a mad prince's treasure lies buried inside the cave, along with him. That's what I needed, right? I need a cave for them to go to deal with some crap. So I'm like, okay, Cave of the Mad Prince. Let's make this bad boy. So I think I actually used like the Shadowdark method for this, where I just kind of dropped a bunch of stuff on a table and like marked them with kind of what should be in them. And then I just started writing out, really quick, like, okay, so they gotta take a sinkhole to get down here, right? That's area 1. There was supposed to, this area 9 here is like buried, and so they would need to shovel it out. They'd need to dig out to get through that area, so they wouldn't necessarily think to go there at first. 2, I think, was broken out. This passage is home to a clan of scorpions, 5 of them attack interlopers, so I was like, some scorpions here. And I was like, yeah, I kind of want a Rosgodai down here, because one of my PCs was a Rosgodai, and they're kind of foundational to the setting. I think they're really interesting. But I had to figure out what they were doing down here, and I was like, okay, well, maybe a Cerule elf, Renariel Cerule, right? He knows where the Rosgodai monastery is, and he plans to sell the information to Zora for a jewel. Well, who's Zora? So Zora is a former apprentice of a wizard who was the other apprentice, kind of opposite one of my PCs, young Karazar, who and she had like killed their wizard master and had kind of run off. And like his murder was basically one of her, like, oh, I'm going to become a Rosgodai. I need to be an assassin. I'm going to show them, right? So it was like kind of her ticket to becoming a Rosgodai in her mind. So she's a cultist, wants to become a Rosgodai, and has arranged to meet a guide, Renariel, but has become lost. So Zora has become lost in the caves here. And Renariel Cerule is captured and tied up over here by the Rosgodai, who's waiting in 3 for anybody to come through so he can ambush them. So you can see I'm kind of tying these things together, right? And obviously none of this has anything to do with what's in the dungeon. Realistically, all they're trying to do is all Zora wants to do is get to the Rosgodai temple. All Renariel wants to do is sell her that information for a jewel that he's going to go then burn on the pyre. All the Rosgodai wants to do, which I think I have a name for him, it's like Bloodshade. Yeah, Bloodshade was the Rosgodai. Zala Aldam. So, yeah. So anyway, you kind of get what's going on there. But then I've got this other thing, right? The Mad Prince, who's a wight. He jealously guards his treasure, the short sword of the thief. He is cursed with maddening greed. Offered gifts, he rests. So basically, if you give him something valuable, he'll just die. He'll finally die. But like he's been consumed by greed his whole life. He has taken everything. Then so that's his curse. That's the Mad Prince. That's his madness. The way I played it was like all of the engravings around that room were kind of showing like gifts being given to him and stuff to kind of telegraph that. A doppelganger pretending to be the Mad Prince is over here in 8, and he orders the party to go collect his treasure, promising a hefty reward. But he's actually leading them to 11, which is a sandy sinkholes that fall 50 feet to the buried fortress below. Now, the fortress down here is a fortress full of gold. So it's actually the full treasure of the Mad Prince is stashed down in this place. But you would die, right, if you're like trying to go down there without the right stuff. So that's kind of the setup for this whole dungeon. And I made this like, I don't know, I wrote this up in probably like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours total. Then a little random encounter table. This is all I really needed. I ended up zhuzhing this up. Let me see if I can find it actually. Yeah, I don't know where they all are. Or do I? No. I'll bring them on video. I'll do like a cut later and show them or whatever. But I have like kind of zhuzhed up versions of these. So this is the Cave of the Mad Prince, right? So then they get through the Cave of the Mad Prince, which is here. And the next session, I'm like, okay, well, they pop out of a secret door in the back that goes to 804. So if I go look at 804, right, 804 says Canyon Maze. Within the Echoes of Canyonlands, or within the Echoes Canyonlands, a network of narrow ravines and gulches forms a disorienting maze. A navigator must pass a DC-18 intelligence check to find an exit to the hex. Nomads tell tales of a flesh-eating Afridi who stalks the maze, tearing travelers apart in nighttime attacks. In truth, the creature haunting the maze is a vengeful canyon ape named Gory Manu, who a long-dead sorcerer cursed with dim intelligence and the lifespan of 10 men. Gory Manu has a cumulative 1 in 6 chance each day of finding creatures lost in the maze. He waits until night to attack, green eyes flashing like a mountain lion in the darkness. So this is great. This is super evocative and punchy, but it doesn't really work for what I wanted to do with this. So I made the Prison of Gory Manu, which is this whole thing here. Now, he is cursed with dim intelligence. It was actually one of the glass guys that gave it to him. The Ring of Glass Men is one of the ones who gave him that intelligence. But this canyon, the way I set it up, was the ghost of the guy who cursed him is stuck here because of the curse. Also, Gory Manu lives a preternaturally long life because of the horn of the Endless Titan, which sticks out of the sands, glowing and humming. He has to return to it every day or every night, or he dissolves into dust. So he's kind of locked here by his own intelligence. He knows how it works a little bit, and so he doesn't want to die, and so he keeps coming back. Zora has made it out here, so I was like, Zora survived, got out of the dungeon without interacting with the party. So I was like, great, she's out here getting harassed by Zala Aldam. She's been touched by Truth Speak oil, and will admit to killing her wizard teacher and her ambition to join the Razgodai. So Zala Aldam, the Razgodai, he also made it out of that fight alive, and so he ended up in this part of the adventure. So I used what happened in the first adventure into the second adventure. The doppelganger also got away and is trying to fool the party again in room 5. So as you can see, I'm kind of doing some shuffling around with stuff that's happened in the previous adventures to kind of bring things forward. But I'm keeping it really, really short. I'm keeping it really, really punchy, making it really easy to read. And I'm just trying to make it kind of evocative. Now, one thing I did do is on the random encounter table, I made a sandstorm erupt that blinds for 1 hour. This was my way to use the 1 hour torch timer that Shadowdark has. I'm just using it for a different purpose here. And then finally, when the party got through this, they were looking for the Paradise Prison of the Path of Mirrors. This is the last adventure in the campaign that I ran. Now, I want to just say real quick, this took me about 2 hours. This took me about 2 hours, and this took me about maybe 3 hours. So all told, we're looking at about 7 hours of prep. And I ran the games for, I think, 4 or 5 sessions. So each one is about 3 hours. So that would have been 12 to 15 hours of play. But also, out of this, I got kind of a lot of really fun stuff, and actually have turned these into adventures that you can get on my Patreon. So if you know any of my stuff, like the Thunder Speakers of Buzhou, this is how I set those up. I prep it here. I write it all down in my little notebook. And then, once I've kind of cooked it down enough to the point where I like it, I start working on laying it out. This is my new, my Mythic Bastionland campaign that I'm running, where I'm kind of specking out all the different places and stuff. So, yeah, I guess, do the prep you need to do to do the thing you're trying to do. For me, a lot of the times prep is play. I very much enjoy prepping. And so the combination of exercising my writing skills, exercising my creative skills, reading and engaging and enjoying enjoying the fiction of the game, combined with my ability to do some art and do some map making, and maybe even publish a thing when I'm done. Maybe share it around with some friends or some of you. I think that's hugely rewarding to me. So that's what I'm doing. That's how this stuff works. And yeah, this is my little Dungeon Master notebook. It's almost full. I'm gonna run out. I got a second one on backup. It's just about ready. But I think literally I've got one whole sheet left. So yeah, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. It went way longer than I anticipated. Please, if you like these videos, hit subscribe, share, do bell icon stuff. If you want to get some access to some of this early stuff or just hang out and chat with me, I'd really appreciate it if you join my Patreon. Even free tier members kind of get some juice. And then, paid tier members get early access to videos and a bunch of kind of random content and thoughts about this sort of stuff. So, that's all I got. Thanks for playing. We'll see you in the next one.